humping early this week. We're humping early this week.
Yeah.
We got it. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's all downhill sledding from here on in. I don't know how we get over the hump this early, but we've done it, and I'm proud of us.
Yes,
Congrats.
and also I just enjoyed that on Twitter you called Trump this empty scrotum, and I feel like we can all go home now. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I think that's every time I look at his neck these days, because he's stopped stress eating and has just kept stressing, so he's lost weight in the last little bit, and but not in a good way, in a perhaps we should do your blood test again,
right,
kind of a way.
Yeah.
And or perhaps like, yes, I understand there's an Adderall shortage, but putting those kind of chemicals in your body at this age is not advisable. That he's losing that kind of a weight.
Yes.
And
the rest of it, you said this empty scrotum is positively begging some maggots to die for him while he watches their death on a flat screen at his golf course. Yeah, he is first and foremost a ghoul and always has been.
Well, he's also, it's feeding his ego. And secondly, every collapse of another person's life that is due to his either intellectual or financial inadequacies, or his ego, or his, just quite frankly, pretending to know things he doesn't and getting in over his head. All the people that receive the actual the consequences of his actions on his behalf that he throws under the bus, he always watches their demise from like the warm side of a bay window or on a flat screen television, far away from the actual damage. And that's never truer than the Jan Sixers.
He's a coward. And this is why, by the way, Hal, I'm glad that we just, watched this stupid thing, what do you call it? Just kind of fall flat, because you saw the aerial shots of it, and this is what I keep saying. The point of terrorism is to make us afraid, and that's why I think we should be vigilant about his obvious threats. But you look at what happened, and it was a big fallen souffle in Waco, right?
Totally.
All the the violence that he asked for last Tuesday didn't happen either. The protests.
That's right. And it's not going to. And by the way, I think Bragg and those guys called his bluff a little bit, and I think they punted a couple of days, because it's way more important that innocent people not get killed putting this idiot away for whatever he's done than to just get him in jail. So that's the game they've been playing for a couple of years now. They're trying to wear out his welcome with his, at least the majority of people who may have voted his way, and start looking at DeSantis or somebody else as a potential, especially if it's DeSantis Haley. They think that's a mythological unicorn that they're going to ride into 2024, which is hilarious and terrible. And we'll get to that in a little while, because they won't even vote for them. But this particular thing, like he only really tours in 2 states, Florida and Texas.
Right.
He doesn't go, like, he went to Ohio for that little Gab Fest, bought McDonald's for the firemen, and then dropped off old like Trump water that had been sitting in plastic bottles in the sun for a year, and that's full of like forever chemicals. And then he buzzes off. But the only places he does rallies now are Florida and Texas. And the last time he did a Texas one, if my numbers are correct, was closer to 35,000 people.
Yeah.
And this one was less than 8. I think we're going to find by the end of it, 15 max.
Yeah.
2, it looked like, but about 8 probably. And that's not even locals. That's the whole parking lot for like a mile and a half is full of these RVs and these Sprinter vans for the front row Joes. And these people are like, I'm on my 942nd Trump rally. He's only had 112. Well, I dream of them every night, and those folks, that's not even an indication of local support in Texas.
Yeah. And I was saying,
they're coming from all over.
I saw you see the ones with the Trump flag that also has the Nazi, the Confederate, and the Russian insignia on it. I mean, it tells you everything.
Right.
And they're it's a little let's not forget the Putin love. Hang on, here we go.
I got along well with Putin. I used to talk to Putin about it.
He's great.
It's something he certainly had in his mind. Never even talked about it. For 4 years, you didn't even hear about it. As soon as I was out or left, or however you want to describe that catastrophe, they started putting soldiers on the border. But even then, he didn't want to do it. He wanted to get a peace. Now it looks like he'll end up probably getting the whole thing. But I've never seen anything like it, what's happened. And if you saw the other day with President Xi, smart, top of his game. President Putin, smart, Very smart people.
Oh, no.
Standing there talking about the world order for the next 100 years.
Okay. So he's talking about
All right.
Ukraine, which he would have given to Putin. So that's why Putin would have taken the whole
he
thing then.
He was just building up, and the idea was, I'll attack in your second term because you're not going to get reelected anyways. And then if we turn this into a giant authoritarian Earth, you can just claim to be president for life like she did, and we'll all three ride into the authoritarian sunset. But let's not forget, on the same day that Putin, top of his game, and Xi, top of his game, were meeting, Wagner mercenaries slaughtered Chinese miners, like mine workers, not underage people, although I don't know. At this point, they very well may have been as well, in Cameroon, in like effectively on orders from Putin. And China ordered its map makers and its the sort of geography wing of the CCP to rename Russian territories that were lost in the Sino-Russian War back to their Chinese names. This is the same week they're meeting together for this Just the Tip, where we got no limits, reach around party that they were doing to try and make everybody think this is going somewhere. It ain't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And by the way, earlier we read he said on Putin's nuclear threat, that's our fault. It's the United States fault. He's on Putin's side. In the case of nuclear war. I mean,
I blame us or whatever. It's in some ways I do a little bit, because if we hadn't dropped the ball on our side of the aisle and Hillary Clinton had gotten elected, this wouldn't be a thing.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
You
retweeted Marsha Blackburn. Senator Blackburn said Biden and Democrats want to control your air conditioners, washing machines, firearms, children's education, healthcare, vaccination status, small businesses, and speech. And you said, and Republicans just want to control your genitals, your kids' genitals, and books, and on and on and on.
and on and on and on and on. Right. Yeah. This is Marsha Blackburn, she of the beehive rat's nest hairdo, who gets really mad when the fentanyl seizures and the number of seizures of illegal crossings is reported.
Yeah.
And when she's of all of them, she has the hardest time grasping that, like, this stuff didn't get through. That's what we're shooting for, you lunatic.
Yeah,
also,
you can't blame her for being cranky, because
border state.
She looks in the mirror at her hair and she thinks,
look what the homosexuals have done to me.
Okay. This is what happens when you abandon the gays. That is what your hair is going to look like.
Excuse me, if there quite frankly were a decent hairdresser of that particular sexual preference in her area, that mess would not be allowed in front of a lens.
You're right.
Alfredo.
No self-respecting gay hairdresser would allow that to ever happen on their watch.
Alfredo in California. You're on with Hal. Hey, Alfredo.
Hey, hi. Thank you very much for taking my call. Great show, by the way.
Thank you.
I just wanted to echo a sentiment. The FBI has classified white supremacists as the most dangerous terrorist organizations in the United States. And this guy, Donald Trump, is appealing to these extreme white supremacist terrorists. Donald Trump is a domestic terrorist.
He is. He is absolutely a terrorist, and he is inciting more terrorism. And thank you, Alfredo. That's what the media needs to call out. What he did or tried to do in Waco yesterday or Saturday, Hal.
Yeah. Well, that's the issue with him, isn't it? Is that he wants desperately to be a domestic terrorist. In his mind right now, his only way out as the caged legal animal he is right now is Jim Jones, David Koresh, or some sort of like Putin rides to his rescue. That's the only option he has right now. Yeah. So he's playing like, okay, you guys go kill somebody on my behalf. Go do it.
Yeah.
Because I'm obviously not going to take any of these actions. I've got a lot of well-done steaks to eat with ketchup on them.
How about this judge in the E.G. and Carroll case? Judge Lewis Kaplan tore into Trump's incitement.
Oh, yes.
Right, and his rant about being arrested. Mr. Trump's quite recent reaction to what he perceived as an imminent threat of indictment by a grand jury sitting virtually next door to this court was to encourage protest and urge people to take our country back. That reaction reportedly has been perceived by some as incitement to violence. It bears mention that Mr. Trump repeatedly has attacked courts, judges, various law enforcement officials, other public officials, even individual jurors in other matters. I mean, you're right, how you've got to call him out for the terrorist and the criminal that he is. And we've had Glenn Kirschner and others tell us nobody would get bail. No normal person that gets arrested would get bail with all of the number of threats that are on record out there.
Totally. That if they talk about a two-tier justice system, they bring this up all the time, and that's absolutely the fact. Because if he wasn't rich, and if he hadn't been a president, doing these things and inciting a crowd that big and participating in inciting the crowd that big to do these kind of things multiple times and threatening effectively a judge and the jury and the defense, anybody, witnesses, everybody, because it's just a group. Like anybody who's against him is the evil that needs to be taken out by some stranger that just will take up the knife in his hand and on his behalf. Him doing that. His act of doing that would get him thrown in jail and denied bail. Absolutely.
Yeah. Something I wanted to ask you for many years. How about that taco penis? How about it? How about that Joey taco penis?
I call him Joey Peanuts, because, hey, Joey Peanuts. Hey, look, we got two kinds of lawyers here in Trump land, all right? Okay? We got two kinds. We got the hotties. We got the pretty girls who go out who they're like first season of Law and Order, young DA hotness, so you can look at the old guy and you're like, guy, he's smart. But look at the lawyer, oh man. And then they go out in front of it. They get to sit on Newsmax and tell the story. And then in the background, they're the guys like me who know what's going on, know how to handle these things. There's me, there's Joey Ty Cobb, and so on. And Joey Peanuts and Ron Wackadoo. And a bunch of people you've never heard. Caravano, who's related to he's half Italian, half that chick from The Mandalorian who got kicked off for comparing being bumped off Twitter to being a Holocaust survivor.
Yeah.
That kind of guy. Like, that's our ilk. We handle the backdoor stuff, if you know what I'm saying.
Every one of his attorneys, it's some version of Nice Country. You got the shame if something was to happen to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Minocqua Brewing Company is excited to partner with Equality Vines to create Choice Wine. Choice Wine comes in two choices, Rosé and Sauvignon Blanc. This wine was created to support women's reproductive rights after the Supreme Court rolled back Roe v. Wade in 2022 and caused chaos all over the country. For all you viewers on the Political Voices Network, go to choice.equalityvines.com and type in the promo code PVN to get 10% off on Choice Sauvignon Blanc and Choice Rosé.